Bird. He weighed less than a pound. He could not call for help, but he attacked them anyway. His name was Bird, an 18-inch white-crested cockatoo named after Larry Bird. He lived with a man named Kevin Butler, 48, who ran a swimming pool company in Pleasant Grove, Dallas. For years, it was just the two of them. But on Christmas Eve, 2001, two men broke in. Johnny Cerna, 22, a former employee Butler had fired, and his half-brother Daniel Torres, age 30. They came for money and had brought knives. They bound Kevin's arms and legs with electrical cord. They stabbed him in the chest and in the abdomen. Then they slashed his throat. The bird flew in to defend. The cockatoo dove from his perch and threw himself at Torres. He pecked at his head and drew blood each time. Torres wiped the blood from his scalp and tried to reach the light switch, but the cockatoo kept on coming. So Torres picked up a fork from the kitchen. Police found Bird's body the next morning, lying next to his owner. Featherless, punctured. But the blood on the light switch belonged to Daniel Torres. His DNA was on two knife handles, on the cockatoo's beak and on his claws. At trial, in February of 2003, prosecutor George West held up a photograph of Bird. This bird spoke. He spoke to us. We know this bird will attack anybody who is attacking his owner. Torres was convicted of capital murder. He was sentenced to life without parole. A bird who could not testify in court fought a killer with his body. He may have lost the fight, but he helped win by convicting his owner's killer. Bud. He watched a man die. He kept his words in his beak, but 2 years later, he gave them back. His name was Bud, a 20-year-old African gray parrot. He lived with a man named Martin Durham, age 46, and his wife Glenna in Sand Lake, Michigan. For 11 years, Bud perched in their bedroom. He heard everything. On May 12, 2015, the couple did not respond to texts. A neighbor named Connie Ream let herself in the next afternoon. She found them on the bedroom floor. Martin had been shot 5 times. Glenna was beside him, with a blanket draped over her legs. There was a bullet wound in her head. The first responders called it a double homicide, but an hour later, paramedics realized Glenna was still alive. Then they found the suicide notes, 3 of them, in Glenna's handwriting. One was addressed to her own child. Please forgive me. I have been a disappointment to you these past 12 years. When Glenna recovered, she told detectives she remembered nothing. She said she would never have killed her husband. Weeks later, Martin's ex-wife Christina Keller took Bud home, and the parrot began to talk. He spoke in 2 different voices. It was an argument. The voices were escalating. And then, in Martin's voice, Bud screamed 3 words. Don't fucking shoot. Martin's father told reporters, I personally think he was there. He remembers it, and he was saying it. But the judge ruled the parrot inadmissible. The handwriting evidence was more than enough. On July 19, 2017, Glenna Durham was convicted of first-degree murder, life in prison. Bud is still alive, and he still talks. He has never stopped saying the last words his owner ever said. Colonel. A man trained his dog to kill for him. The dog bled, and that blood led police back to his door. His name was Colonel, an 8-year-old pit bull terrier. He belonged to Spencer Shepherd, age 29, from Deptford in southeast London. On November 10th, 2001, Shepherd drove with his friend Dwayne Daniels to the Paradise Club in New Cross. Daniels was a cocaine addict with nearly 1,000 prior offenses. The doorman that night was George Napier, 6'6", father of 3. He was studying to become a lawyer and working as a bouncer to keep his children fed. Earlier that evening, Napier had ejected Shepherd from the club. You'll regret this, Shepherd had screamed at him. So Shepherd went home, collected Colonel, and then came back. They set the dog on Napier outside the club. Daniels stabbed him through the heart. He died on the pavement, age 36. His children would grow up without their father. But Colonel had been wounded too. His ear was sliced open in the struggle. He bled all the way home. The Metropolitan Police followed the blood trail from the club entrance down the street all the way back to Shepherd's door. They sent samples to a specialized lab in New York. The chance the blood had come from any other dog was 1 in a million. It was the first case in British legal history where dog DNA convicted a killer. Daniels was sentenced to life, and Shepherd got 8 years. But Judge Giles Forrester ordered one final sentence. Colonel was to be put down. A man had used his dog as a weapon. The dog bled, trying to please his owner. and in the end, both of them paid for what the man had done. Chief. 2 killers shot the family dog first. They thought he was just a witness with no voice, but they were wrong. It was December 9th, 1996, in South Park, Seattle. Jay Johnson was 22. His girlfriend, Raquel Rivera, was 20. She had dreams of being a flight attendant. Together, they had a 1-year-old pit bull Labrador mix named Chief. That night, 2 men kicked the front door off its hinges. Kenneth Leulu Aiali'i and George Tuelafano, members of the Mad Pack gang. They demanded drugs and cash, but Jay refused. They shot Chief first, repeatedly. They even threw his body against the wall. Then they turned on the 2 people inside. They shot Jay in both of his legs, then twice in the abdomen. They chased Raquel into the bedroom. They forced the gun into her mouth and pulled the trigger. Chief was still breathing when the police arrived, but unfortunately, he died 30 hours later. The case had only witness testimony from gang members that no jury would believe. The state needed something else. They had the jackets, 2 jackets and a pair of pants, recovered from the suspects. They had the blood spatter on the fabric, but the blood was not Jay's, nor was it Raquel's. It belonged to Chief. It was the first time animal DNA had been admitted as evidence in a U.S. criminal trial. In his opening statement on July 9, 1998, Deputy Prosecutor Timothy Bradshaw stood before the jury. The irony will be that the witness who could not speak when he was alive will present the most eloquent of evidence. Both men were convicted. Leulu Aiali'i got life without parole. Tuelafano instead got 40 years. They had shot the dog first because they thought he would not be a problem, but he turned out to be the only witness in the room they could not silence. Tinker. A torso washed up on a British beach. The killer thought he had hidden the body, but he completely forgot about his cat. It was July 2012 in South Sea, Hampshire. A passerby found a black bin bag near the waterline. Inside was a curtain. Wrapped inside the curtain was the dismembered torso of a 30-year-old man named David Gee. His head, arms, and legs were missing. The curtain had come from the home of a man named David Hilder. Detectives examined the fabric under a microscope. They found 8 white cat hairs caught in the fibers, and Hilder owned a cat. Her name was Tinker. The Hampshire Constabulary sent the hairs to the Veterinary Genetics Laboratory at the University of California, Davis. The results came back. The hairs matched Tinker. But there was a problem. Without a database, no one could say for certain how many other British cats might also match. So the British built one. Dr. John Wheaton at the University of Leicester led the project. He spent 6 weeks collecting DNA samples from 152 cats across England. Only 3 matched the hairs from the curtain. The genetic type was rare in the United Kingdom, and it was on Hilder's cat. David Hilder was convicted of manslaughter at Winchester Crown Court. He was sentenced to life with a minimum of 12 years. Dr. Wheaton told the BBC, "The 10 million cats in the UK are unwittingly tagging the clothes and furnishings in more than a quarter of households. A man tried to make a body disappear into the ocean, but he never thought to hide his own cat." Snowball. A woman vanished. The killer left no fingerprints. However, he left his mother's cat instead. Her name was Snowball, a white shorthair on Prince Edward Island. She belonged to the parents of a man named Douglas Beamish. On October 3rd, 1994, Beamish's common-law wife disappeared. Her name was Shirley DeGuay. She was 32 and had 5 children waiting at home. 4 days later, her car was found streaked with blood. Most of it was Shirley's, but some of it was not. In May of 1995, hunters discovered her body in a shallow grave in North Enmore. Buried with her was a leather jacket soaked in her blood. The neighbors had said that it looked like one Beamish had owned, but he denied it. Then, forensic specialists examined the lining. Tangled inside were more than 24 white cat hairs. Constable Roger Savoy chased Snowball through every room of the Beamish house until he caught her. He told the cat's owners he was reading her rights. He took her blood and sent it across the United States, looking for someone who could match it. But no one could. No one had ever tried. Eventually, he found Dr. Stephen O'Brien at the National Cancer Institute. O'Brien had been studying feline genetics for decades. He was able to run the test. He ran a fail-safe with 20 other cats from Prince Edward Island. Only one matched, and it was Snowball. Doug Beamish was convicted of second-degree murder on August 1st, 1996. And today, He is still in prison. It was the first time in the history of any court anywhere in the world that the DNA of an animal had been used to convict a human being.